Presented by Costen and Hammer Productions.
Live from Costen and Hammer Productions, it's Saturday Night Scoop. Sit back and enjoy while we thoroughly entertain you with comedy, sports, music, and more. Now, here are your hosts, Tobin Costen and Josh Hammer.
What's up, everyone? Josh Hammer here with co-host Tobin Costen for Saturday Night Scoop. As I've mentioned prior to filming this live stream, Cost and I have talked about how we decided to step away from our usual topics of conversation around comedy, sports, and entertainment. In response to recent events, we're holding this live stream talk show regarding the recent voices shouting worldwide for justice. And so, Costen, you and I talked prior to us going live here, and you shared some stories around this issue and this time of us facing, again, the recent voices shouting worldwide for justice. So you mentioned that you felt comfortable to do so.
Yes.
Again, I think it just, it puts things in perspective. And so I'm just going to do what most people in my position, I think, should be doing. And that's just to sit down and listen for a moment. So, yeah, floor is yours.
So, I see things from a lot of perspective just because, I've got friends and a family member that was a police officer. And I've also been on the other side of being mistreated by police officers. So I'm going to tell, everybody a story that, maybe a few people that I went to school with know about. And it's a frustrating story. I used to work for a television station, it was about 2021, called Crim 2. I was at Gonzaga University, and what I would do is I worked the news. So I do camera, and sound, and audio, and all these different things. So what would happen is we had an 11 o'clock, it was 11 o'clock news. So I would, work there, do the camera work, finish up. We'd have to do some cleanup or something like that after the news show, and I would come home. So I was in Spokane, Washington, full-time student, Gonzaga University, working at Crim 2. I remember I would drive home, I'd park my car, and then sometimes, go for a walk or see what's going on. So this was a Saturday night. Interesting, just like tonight.
Yeah.
I dropped my car off. I went to Safeway to go pick up some donuts and chocolate milk and kind of chill, because usually after the newscast, I was kind of tired. And normally, I probably would have went to a party or something, but for whatever
Safeway
reason,
was beckoning your name for.
Well, I think I think once you get to midnight in Spokane, Washington, you don't have much time to do much, right? Even on campus party or whatever, more than likely it's already been shut down by the campus security or what have you.
Yeah.
So I go to Safeway. I pick up. And I remember this like yesterday because I have a half a jug of chocolate milk. I've got a bag of like snacks, donuts, or whatever, and I'm walking down the street. So, and I'm going. There's a little small side street that I'm walking down. So as I turn, I hear all these lights and sirens, and I get kind of surrounded by 4 police cars. And I'm kind of like freaked out, like, whoa, what's going on? So when you hear police sirens and you haven't done anything, you're like, oh, I wonder what's going on. So as they came up to me and stopped and said, halt, and don't move. And people come out with their guns pointed at you. And as a person who, clearly wasn't doing anything wrong. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Probably the most I've ever done was probably drink underage or maybe speed or something like that. I was kind of blown away. So They pull guns out on me, and the guy was like, "Don't move." And in the instance when you've done nothing wrong, you're kind of like, well, "Wait a minute, what's going on?" So this police officer grabs my arm, and it wasn't that I was trying to resist. It was more of like, "Hey, wait a minute, what did I do?"
Yeah.
So he said to me, "I'm so tired of you people." And he took my arm and put it and put it right behind my back, and he was kind of pushing down on my shoulder, and it almost to a point where I was like, "Man, this." I'm like, "Ow, ow! What are you doing?" So I still have my stuff in my hands because I haven't let it go, and finally by that time, everything drops, and the police car is right there, and he starts slamming me against the door, and I'm like, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" I'm freaked out, and he pulls my arm really down, and he says, "You need to do what we say." And I was like, "I don't understand what's going on." So he slaps the handcuffs on me, and he slams me against the car a few more times, and then he opens the door and he slams me against the door, or against the door hinge or the opening of the door a few more times. And
Hmm.
he throws me in the car, and I'm tilt over to the side. My legs are dangling out. And he's like, "Get in the car, get in the damn
Wow.
car." And he slams the door. So I kind of put myself right. My hands are behind my back. And I'm literally thinking like, "Oh my God, my life is over." I just I and at this point, I'm not arrested. I'm not anything. I'm just detained in a cop
Hmm.
car, roughed up a little bit, and freaked out. So I'm sitting there, and I'm like, "Oh my God, what if they plant drugs on me?" Like an old Kojak episode or something. Somebody
Movie.
planted
Yeah.
drugs on, or a movie, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, "My life's over. Like, man, I'll never get my degree. I'll never make anything of myself. I'll be in jail forever." Like,
You're not
these are
just
the
trying to
things.
get donuts.
These,
Yeah.
these exactly. These are the things that are going through my mind.
Hmm.
So someone came and said, "Hey, no, he's not the guy." So of course I'm not the guy because I didn't do anything.
Right. Right. Right.
So they let me out, and he's like, "You need to be careful what you do." And I said, "Well, what I do?" I said, "I'm just walking down the street." So I tried to go and file a complaint and go through this thing, and everyone kind of deterred me from it. Even in the police department, and basically said, "Hey, these things happen.
Hmm.
These cops are good cops. They would never do anything like that." So it was like my word against their word. So it's kind of something that I didn't really pursue. And
Right.
and I will just tell you, it's the worst feeling in the world knowing you haven't done anything right, or wrong, excuse me. I don't
Wrong.
know,
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah.
And I think the problem with that situation is they never, whoever and I kind of found out after the fact, they didn't know who did it. They didn't know what the person looked like. They didn't have a very good description. They just know somebody shot up this house or shot at this house. So they didn't know. Look, I'm I'm about 6'4.5". So
Right. So
they, you know, 6'4" at that point, 6'4.5", and very athletic. And they had no idea. I guarantee no one said, "Hey, this 6'4.5" guy did it." They had no idea. The guy allegedly was covered up, so they didn't know if he was a black, Hispanic, white. They didn't know who the guy was. All I know is if you're a police officer and you see a guy walking down this
with
road with bags of groceries in a half gallon or a gallon of milk, chocolate milk, he's probably not your guy.
right.
And I think the thing that frustrated me at that point, I told them that, and they didn't believe me. So that Monday before class, we were in the classroom. I was kind of telling this story before class, and I'm not going to
Mhm.
say this person's name because I am Facebook friends with this person, and I'm sure she's, maybe she
Yeah.
remembers, maybe she
Keep
doesn't.
it. Yeah.
I'm
Whatever you're
keeping it.
comfortable
I'm,
with for
I'm, you know,
confidential purposes too.
I
Yeah.
I'm
Totally.
okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that, but I just don't want
Yeah.
to put her out there.
I
But I
got you.
will tell you, I'm telling this story like, "Hey, this is what happened to me. I don't know." And she turned to me, and I remember this. I remember this young lady specifically, and I was so frustrated by it. I'd never been so frustrated in my life. She says, "Now, come on, Tobin. You had to have done something to deserve this. No police officers do this just because you're walking down the street." And I will never forget this. I'll never forget this person because I was so frustrated that I wasn't being heard and
Hmm.
there was no empathy for me because there was an assumption that I did something wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's what people need to understand where people are, especially people of color are, and they're tired of, they're not being heard because these things happen all the time. And you get kind of talked to and accosted and bothered because you don't look like them. They don't feel comfortable. So a lot of police officers don't feel comfortable with someone who's different than them. And look, at the end of the day, they loop all of these people in on the same like they're in the same boat and they're looping these people and they think, hey, you must have done something wrong. When the pure fact is, I didn't do anything wrong. I
Right.
just happened to be walking down the street after working and going to go get something to eat.
Yeah, and it's not like you're instigating, like going where the location was where they were or whatever. Like there's a lot
Yeah,
of stories that I've heard personally that are somewhat similar to yours, but like it was like, oh, wrong place, wrong time. It's like to me, it's like I mean, hey, I had Safeway right by where I went to college. I went there all
yeah.
the time. Imagine me trying to walk up Redwood back into school and then boom, that's what happened. That's kind of the way that I connect with. That's so. I'm just. It's loss of words. It's
It's traumatic. I still think
right.
about it a lot today. I think about that. So every time I see a police officer, I'm kind of like, whoa. And I'm sure a lot of people feel that way when they get pulled over or when a police officer's following them and all. I'm sure they all feel that, no matter what your race is. But because
Yeah.
of my experience, and this wasn't the only experience I've ever had with a police officer, I've had multiple experiences. So when you think about it, trying to be a law abiding citizen, paying my taxes at this point in my life, I would say very successful, trying to provide a very good life for my family. But that doesn't matter. Like I was talking to a friend of mine who's a millionaire who happens to be black, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And we were talking, it doesn't matter the success that we've had. It doesn't matter who we are. If someone doesn't know, hey, my friend's this millionaire that's very well known, or hey, Costen is a professor and a producer and has had lots of success. It doesn't matter if they don't know that because they're automatically assumed like, hey, what's this big black dude doing
Mm.
here? And that's the scary thing. What happens is, and I think this is the frustration, if you are not a person of color, if you are what I call a European American, some people would call white or Caucasian,
Yeah.
if you are a European American, you get the benefit of the doubt. And that's what people don't understand
Right.
because that's
Missing the
what it
point.
is.
Yeah.
It's just you
Yeah.
get the benefit of the doubt. So I would, people won't agree with this, but I'm going to say this. If you and I got into a confrontation and you hit me, and I called the
Yeah.
police and said, Hammer hit me, I think there's a less likely chance of you going home and or going to the police station in cuffs as if you said Costen hit me.
Hmm.
I think if you hit me, or if I said you hit me, there'd be a lot more conversation of like, okay, what happened? What was going on here? What was the situation here?
Yeah.
Um, if I hit you, it would be like, hey, we're gonna throw the cuffs on you, Costin, and we'll figure this thing out at the
When
jailhouse.
we're at the okay. Yeah.
And
Totally.
so that's the benefit of the doubt that folks get that aren't of color. And I think that's the frustration. That's what you're seeing people where you're like, in this situation with George Floyd, people want to talk about he's a bad person or like, look, actually somebody told me I had met him before and I knew him, and I didn't remember because he was trying to be a rapper. So my
Oh,
time in Houston, a guy, a friend of mine, said to me, "Hey man, don't you remember George? He was
you're
a
like,
rapper." And
dude,
I'm
I've
like, "Look,"
met so
I'm like,
many.
I was like, "Look, I'm sorry, I don't remember him." And he was kind of telling me the story of how we met and all this stuff. And I said, "Yeah, I do remember that time, but I don't remember him." But look, the
Either
problem
way,
is,
yeah.
either way, he's, you know, maybe he wasn't a good guy. I don't know. I don't know his background or who he is and that thing.
Hmm.
But no one deserves that, especially if we're talking at that moment. Allegedly, he's right. I've heard he's writing a bad check. I've heard he had some phony money. I heard all these things. No one deserves that in that situation. I will assure you, and something that I'm really passionate about. If we were talking about a dog who did something, and I'm not relating Mr. Floyd to a dog, so let's not get crazy. But if we were
Right.
talking about a dog in America, that someone put their knee on a dog for 8 minutes and a dog died, I swear to you, we'd have probably more people up in arms on both sides of the fence saying, how could you do this to an animal? Now, for whatever reason, in this situation, when something happens that people want to go back to someone's past and who they were and what they did. And look, I'm sure there's things in my lifetime I've done that people don't like, and they'll say Costen was this or Costen was that. I would like to think if I got killed by someone, that the first thing they don't do is research and say, "Oh, Costen was this.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure about that Costen guy." I would like to think that they would seek justice. Now, different people have different ways of seeking justice. Some
Hmm.
people think it's a violence. Some people think it's protest. As you know, Hammer, you and I yesterday went out protested for Black Lives Matter, talking about I can't breathe. There are so many people, these stories that have been told over the last century
Yeah.
of people who haven't done anything and have been treated differently because the tone of their skin, because they happen to be black or they happen to be Hispanic or they happen to be Native American or American Indian. That's the challenge of where we're at.
Yeah.
And I think, people have asked me questions and I have no problem with answering those questions.
Yeah.
I think when individuals say, you know, people are treated the same, there's no police brutality on people of ethnicity, and they say that it's just not true because I have several stories of being treated, of being roughed up by the police officers, and I happen to be of a different race. And I guarantee you, if you took one for one, many of my, European American friends have not had those experiences
Yeah.
because there's no, you're not getting stopped and frisked in certain places where it used to be legal to be stopped and frisked. You're not getting stopped and frisked. You're just walking like, hey, that's the guy, right? So if someone shoots up a place or someone robs a place, they're not going to be like, oh, could that be Hammer? Could he be the guy? No, they're going to be like, "Hey, somebody robbed someone. Let me go get Costen because he looks different than I look." And
Hmm.
that's the challenge. Now, many people aren't going to believe that, but I've had experiences that with racism, and it's unfortunate. I mean, that's just kind of how it goes. I mean, when I was at college at Gonzaga University, I was supposed to move in with some guys, and I remember there were some close friends of mine that they were like, "Hey, move in with us, man." I was like, you know what? I'm going to move in with these guys over there. You
Oh,
know,
you've told me this
they're fun.
story.
They're a
Yeah.
fun group of guys, and they like to hang out. And I like, and for me, I was just like, "Hey, I'm gonna hang out with some different guys because maybe I can, just meet some different people or whatever." Well, I had one of the people in that house say he didn't want me to move in with them because I was black. And understand, I was blown away. I was like,
Yeah. I mean,
it was the '90s at the time, so it's not 2020. But I was
mhm.
like, whoa, wait a minute. Now, it didn't surprise me, but I was kind of surprised that he actually verbalized this and said this to me.
Instead of like keeping it quiet, he
Keeping it
was just
quiet
like,
and say,
yo,
hey,
I'm sorry, man, but
but I'm sorry, man. So what happened to this guy? He was in the Army, and
Mm,
he did a couple of years in the Army, and then after the Army, went to college. And he was saying that when he was in the Army, a black guy stole something from his Foot Locker. And
okay.
because that black guy stole something from his Foot Locker, he said he didn't want me to move in with him. Now I remember this like it's yesterday that all of the other roommates came over to my room, and some of them I'm Facebook friends with, so they probably, they're
Cease.
probably going to see this and hear this, and but it is what it is. They were crying and they were saying, "I can't believe," and I believe it was 1992 at the time. I can't believe in 1992 that there's this kind of feeling and hatred, and crying and crying and crying. And I was thankful and I appreciated them. And then they left. And I had a buddy of mine with me. I won't give his name up, but
Yeah.
a buddy of mine with me who was literally the nicest man you will ever meet. He was the nicest guy in college. He's the nicest man now. He's a family man and professional. And he said to me, and I never heard him curse before, he said, "Man, I would have kicked that guy's ass."
Oh,
So then
yeah.
he says to me, "Man, that's really touching that all these people, like these guys came over and they're crying and everything, and they're so like tearful about this thing." And I turned to him and I said, "You know what?" I said, "I hear what you're saying, but I said, not one of those guys said, 'Hey, we're going to vote that guy out the house and have Tobin come in.' Not one of them. They were upset over the situation. They were frustrated. They didn't even like the guy. He wasn't kind of a guy they liked, but not one of them said, 'Hey, we should vote him out or get him out the house so we can bring Tobin.'"
Yeah.
And
Speak up, or at least speak
that's
up a little bit more than that. But
and that's
hey,
kind of how things work, man. I mean, that's racism at its finest. Um, I
mhm,
I often tell folks it's okay if you do not feel comfortable around people of color. You can say, "Hey, I don't feel comfortable around black people. I don't feel comfortable about around white people or Asian or whatever." You can say that, but if you're stopping them from progressing, that's where the problem is, right? Like if I had a problem with, and look, I'm a man of the people. I love all people.
yeah,
So, but I'm giving an
I'm aware.
example.
Yes.
Example in case people are saying Costen says he doesn't like certain people. So let's
Uh-huh.
say, for example, I have a problem with Asian people, which I don't.
Right.
But if I had a problem with Asian people and I felt uncomfortable around them, and and I had issue with them, I would say, and then I had an opportunity to either, if I worked at a bank, give them a loan or give an Asian person a job or whatever the case may be. If I stop them from doing that, then that is me being completely wrong. But if I said, "Hey, even though I know I have an issue with this person for their ethnicity, I'm going to still give them the same opportunity I would give anyone else. I would give them a job. I would give them an opportunity to get a loan or whatever those things are. I'm not going to stop them from progressing." That's progress, right? Because even though you may feel a certain way about a certain person's race, you're still going to give them an opportunity based on who they are as an individual and what their basic knowledge is of a job or what their basic ability to repay a loan. And I think that's what I
Yeah.
want people to understand. Look, you can not like white people if that's your thing, but if you're not going to stop them from progressing, then at least we've done that. And that's what I think I want people to really tonight. I want people to understand that. Like, look, people don't feel comfortable around people. People like to feel comfortable around people that look like them, who dress like them, who act like them, who may even smell like them, whatever. But
Yeah.
don't stop people's progression because they're of a different ethnicity. Don't turn around and say, "Hey, well, what about what they're doing?" Now, we understand that there are problems in this country, but don't be a part of the problem. Try to be a part of the solution. And I think that's the biggest thing that people need to understand. Be a part of the solution. And
Hmm.
if you're not a part of trying to help people, or at least stop them from progressing, you are part of the problem. And I just don't fathom not liking someone because of their race. I think that's the weirdest thing in the world. I
Yeah.
don't get it. I mean, I'm just. You gotta understand. My dad was in the army for a long time.
Right. Right.
I grew up on military bases. I grew up in Europe. Man, I got friends from all over the world who are Polynesian, Tongan, and
Right.
Samoan, Hawaiian,
Yeah. You
and
have a lot of
Albanian.
friends. I'm aware of
I
that
mean,
too.
from all over the world. I've got gay friends and straight friends and transgender friends, and I've got so many friends
Hmm.
that I could not fathom. I'm a man of the people. I cannot fathom someone not liking someone because of where they're from or their background or their sexual orientation. I just can't imagine. So when I hear that, I just say something about it. I say I stand up for people because it's just right. Like, how do you not like someone because of where they were born? It just doesn't make sense. Now, I've been around racist people before. I've been around people who've never met a black person before, and I've
Right.
been able to at least have an educated conversation with them about that and how it works and people's thought process around that and what they think. And the more that we're able to have those open and honest dialogue, open and honest conversation about those things, the better it is. So I just want people to have an understanding that, yes, black and brown people are accosted. Yes, we are treated unfairly. Yes, there are problems in this country. I think when people deny that and deny people's experiences, that's when you're getting the issues. When I was in school telling my story about what happened to me, and someone just denied my experience like it was a joke, like it didn't happen,
Mm.
that's when people get frustrated and they get angry. And I don't, look, I don't think looting is right. I don't think it's right at all. I'm not going around looting people. I will march and say what's right. I've been to Washington D.C. and talked about violence in the community and in front of Congress, and have been asked some difficult questions around that and around what's going on in the African American community. So I totally get, like, people have this thought process,
Yeah.
but I am about what's doing right for the people. And sometimes we all don't know what that is, but I definitely don't want to be in a situation where I'm hurting people. I definitely don't want to be in a situation where I'm holding people back. I definitely don't want to negate what people's experiences are. And that's the thing. I think I think, people, black and brown people are just tired of being treated like they're less than. And it doesn't matter what we do, what our education is. It doesn't matter how much money we have in the bank,
Yeah.
because those things. I mean, clearly, because Oprah's been in situations where people have felt uncomfortable because she didn't have the whole Oprah persona on with the makeup and the hair and the clothes, and she went in to go buy something, and they locked the door on her and say, "Hey, you can't come in." And I've had that happen to me before. Like, I mean, I've had that where I've gone to a location to go spend some money, like just got done working out and said, "Hey, I want to go look at some furniture or do this or do that," and not been treated right. Or people tell you, "Oh, well, that's really expensive." Like, that's the
Just
subtleties.
snobby,
Yeah,
subtle comment. Yeah.
it's the subtleties that's frustrating, right? Or
Hmm.
you're treated a certain way, or someone's following you, or someone's treating you a certain way, or someone wants to look at what you got, or look in your bag, or do like those things that I know would never happen to a European American, or it happens less likely. I won't say it never happens because it might happen, but less likely to happen to a European American. You know, I mean, my college buddies will tell you how we went to Canada, and we were getting a room and we're hanging out and we'll watch the World Series and then go out and party in Canada. And this hotel we went to charged me significantly higher because I went in to go get the room, and I said, "Hey, this is the room rate is really high." And then when my European roommate buddy went in, the rate was so much lower, and he got the room. We were in there. I was, we were watching the game, about to go out and party, probably go meet some girls and all that stuff that some young people do.
Yeah.
And I'm in the bathroom. The owners of the hotel come in and barge in like, "What are you guys doing in here? You guys doing drugs?" And I'm like, "No, watching the game." And this is another thing that happened. It was so crazy. It was they asked, "Where's the Negro?" And her husband says, the husband says the Negro's in the bathroom.
Are you
And
kidding
I was
me?
like, well, I know I'm the Negro because it's on my birth certificate, but I'm like, this is like something I've never, I was like, wow, okay.
Right.
So there was an assumption that I was doing drugs or something in the bathroom or something because the Negro was in the bathroom. So these are all real things that happen. You know, these are all real things that occur to me. Like, look, I'm not a perfect guy by any means. I'm sure I've broken some rules and some laws in my lifetime, but those things happen. And I think the
Mhm.
world needs to understand that if something can happen to what I would consider myself a very successful thousandaire who has done a lot for the community,
Right.
who, I mean, I go and clean up parks. I go and volunteer. I go and go to career day. I reach out to folks and help people find jobs. I'm all about supporting everyone I can support, whether it's a church, whether it's an organization. I do everything I can to spread the good word and to spend money on that. And even if me, what I would call myself a productive citizen, if I can deal with these type of things, anyone can. And
Mhm.
I think race is and when I talk to my friends who are not, black or Hispanic or Native American,
Yeah.
they don't have the same experiences that I do. And especially since we've lived somewhat similar lives.
Mhm. Wow.
So
Well,
trying
uh,
to give you some perspective on that,
yeah, no, thank you for sharing those stories, and I think just keeping it real with
man.
people, and then helping all of us understand. At least, I mean, it's just like you said, traumatic was the word you used, especially in that first story that really
Yeah.
struck a
Yeah.
chord there. And I think, you know, anytime you mention change, like change, and I think I mentioned it when we were kind of saying what we were going to talk about tonight. And change is really facing on, I think, right now for those of you that are white like me. Okay, it's facing uncomfortable truths, leaning into them, coming to grips that tremendous effort is needed on a
Hmm.
consistent and dedicated basis with the goal of improvement. And I
Yes.
think right now, the protests, particularly, are representing a real, legitimate frustration over decades and long failure to address reform around police practices and the broader criminal justice system. And so
Yeah.
I think everyone, it's right now it's about civil rights, racial justice, equality, and the fight is right now behind these protests. The main message, the core message, seems from my eyes to come around the fight against injustice and oppression,
Yeah.
not with each other.
Yeah.
Yesterday when you went on Facebook Live, the first thing I was like, "Love has no labels." I just said it,
Yeah.
but that came from my the feeling of like patriotism. I'm super patriotic. My family, I have a number of veterans. I have friends, close friends of mine that I consider family that are police officers. So I love and respect them wholeheartedly. Um, but again, this is about seeking justice, positive reform,
Hmm.
and empowerment right now. And I know the looting and rioting can obviously dilute the attention from the core of what's really going on.
Absolutely.
And, today is doomsday, right? Like, I think it is important also to remember the great accomplishments of the past, that we have seen progress. But it is important also to live each day forging ahead for the betterment of humankind, regardless of age, disability, race, background. We want together. I would think we need to be a little bit. I love the point you just made about being empathetic and just listening to stories. Maybe on social media sometimes, just throwing it out there, on that for all of us. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Sometimes we just got to turn that volume down a little bit from volume 11 to like the 8 or 9 range, even just to have, authentic dialogue, because ultimately we all, in wherever background we come from, I would hope that we want to create a future of authentic joy, unity, prosperity for everyone. And I know it sounds like, yay, Josh, you're going full Captain America. Well, I'm saying I'm patriotic, but patriotism is having pride in one's country. And that to me is being more diverse and less divided.
Yes.
And that's kind of, I think we just got to, in our own way, I like to think that we, are pretty motivating, and we try to inspire others through our work and our careers. But on this platform today, I just want to encourage everyone to keep doing your best every day, to do your best every day, because regardless of our religious background, Democrat or Republican, rural or urban, to your point and hearing your story, it really comes from positive reform, empowerment. For me, I hope and, wish that we can forge positively and just face these uncomfortable truths, have dialogue, be empathetic to all stories, and figure it out that right now Black lives matter. And if we want to create a future of joy, unity, and inclusion and prosperity for all, we got to face that right now and understand why folks are angry, suffering, and are in pain. But I think we all want a little bit more civility. Shoot, I would like to see more people open up the doors for other people, simple stuff like that, even, coming from my generation. Like for me, I remember opening up the door, or maybe someone, whatever it is, simple acts of kindness. It's amazing that that's like highlighted now. Yeah. Oh, let me get my camera out. Wow. They're opening up the door for someone. And it's just, again, I don't want to dilute from what
it's just, but it's the right thing to do. Like, if people treat people with respect, there should be that treatment back, right? I believe you get what you give.
No, 100%.
I have a friend of mine who is a European American. He was a police officer, but he was a campus police officer at a historically Black college.
Oh, yeah.
And he was arguing with me that all these Black students treated him fairly and unfairly, and they disrespected him, and they were racist towards him and all that stuff. So first I told him, I said, well, first of all, you had all the authority and the power, so them being racist, okay, I'm not even going to go into that situation, that conversation. Yeah. But I said, second of all, how did you treat them? Were you busting their chops, saying, "Hey, you kids, get out of here," or were you having a conversation with them? Hey guys, I know you're trying to have a party here, and I know it's kind of one of those things, but do me a favor. Just kind of keep it down. I don't want to have to come back. I don't want to have to, put the cuffs on you guys or get you in trouble. Just do me a favor. Now, most of the time, and I'm sure there's maybe 1 or 2 or 3 people out of a group might say, screw you, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, it would be great. So when I was at Gonzaga University, we had campus security, a guy named Smitty. Smitty was like, he played basketball. He was a great guy. everyone loved Smitty.
Hey, there's one of my friends from college is Smitty, and everyone's no, but it's the same thing. Everyone says the same thing. Anyway, I could go on and on about that, but Smitty, if you're tuning in, it's a popular fan favorite name.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So my Smitty was the nicest guy in the world. He was campus security, and he would always say, "Hey guys, let's calm down." Now he could have been like, "Hey, you guys are in trouble. I'm gonna get you guys arrested or whatever." He never did that. He was always great. I had a situation on campus once where a professor lied to me about something, and he wanted to justify his lie. So what I had told, this was the last semester of school, and I said to him, I said, "Look, you don't need to justify your lie. You lied to me. I'm not interested in hearing it. I just want to finish the semester and start my life away from this place."
Yeah.
So what did he do? He called campus security on me, and I was just sitting in class. And look, I just want to finish class. I just want to go to class. It was before class. He was trying to talk to me, and I was like, "Look, there's nothing to talk about. You lied to me. I'm just going to class. Let me finish the class, and cool." And in a matter of, and I think we're like 4 or 5 weeks away from graduation. So I said, "Look, 4 or 5 weeks from now, you'll never have to see me or hear from me ever again."
Yeah.
So he was so frustrated that I was not okay with his lie that he called campus security on me. So this little lady comes in, and when he comes in, and the students were like, "I can't believe the professor's calling campus security." And I was just like, "I can't either. Whatever. I didn't do anything. I'm sitting here." So then who do they get? They have this little lady who comes in, and they're like laughing. And I'm like, "Well, look, I'm not going to do anything to this lady. I just want to come to class." So then they bring Smitty over, and Smitty talks to me, and I'm frustrated. I'm like, "I don't understand." And Smitty says, "Look, just leave. Obviously, this guy feels uncomfortable with you. Just leave." And I said, "I didn't do anything, Smitty." And Smitty says, "Hey, that's the life sometimes we live. We don't do anything, but he's like, I'm telling you at this particular time. So this thing doesn't escalate. So there's no big deal. There's no issue. Just walk away. We figure out what's going on, and then we solve the problem." And I've learned that, and I still to this day, shout out to Smitty. Like, I remember your goal when you're interacting with people is to listen, is to understand, is to do the whatever you can do to, for lack of a better term, survive the encounter, and then you figure out how you want to respond later. And unfortunately, there are many people who have been mistreated who don't get that opportunity to survive the encounter. But that's the number one goal should be, is to survive the situation, survive the encounter, de-escalate as much as you can, and then figure out how you want to respond at a later point where you are more ready and in a better situation to respond to.
Yeah.
So
in any leadership thing, to your point, before making decisions, words are powerful, especially nowadays where everything is taken wholeheartedly on media and can trigger some sort of reaction. And so it's hard. I mean, sometimes, but I think right now, again, to the point of change for the better, it's just long-term implications before making decisions on anything. But I just, before we close, I guess, we are past our time that we said, but I felt like these stories were so raw and organic and real that I think people need to hear them. And I hope that this platform at least provides some good, some good right now. And
I hope so.
Me too. Yeah. So on that note, I guess let's just we'll invite those of you that are community members checking this out for the first time, or maybe you have followed us consistently. We appreciate your support as always.
Absolutely.
But please feel free to comment on our live stream with various resources, donation links, ways to support community-based solutions.
Absolutely.
And we do ask, again, it's not a requirement. We're not going to require it's not, even though it's our product. We just want respectful comments. So if you are going back and forth, it's all good, but just please remember to be cautious of each other and just be mindful that right now we're all on the same path. Hopefully, at least from our standpoint,
Yes.
we are coming from a place where we understand folks are angry, suffering, and are in real pain. And so on that note, the fight is against, for these protests, and I'll openly speak out, it's against injustice and oppression. And, Costen has this shirt that says, "I matter," with a winky face.
Yes.
I think it is a reminder that to me, it hits because it's like, you shouldn't have, it's unfortunate that you've made a shirt because of the realities that our world is facing right now. It's kind of like, it's a fact. And so I just encourage us to continue to band together and push each other respectfully to change for the better.
Yes.
And again, we appreciate those of you that are tuned in. And again, please feel free to drop a comment with resource and donation links, ways to support, community-based solutions.
Absolutely.
And of course, respectful comments. So usually we're hyping up events, or, being that we've been experiencing COVID, we've been practicing social distancing by doing other ways to promote things on social media. We will have new content coming out soon, but we did want to make sure that right now in this chaotic and emotionally wrenching time in America, that we did our part to hopefully contribute to the piece of the puzzle to help us progress forward as a nation. Even if it's one person that follows us that felt inspired to action to do something good for the community, then I feel like we did our job here today. So again, I'm not an expert. I'm not, we're both educators. And so we definitely use our platform of education to address social justice and have real talk about real problems. So, Costen, I'll just end it with, appreciate you being my friend, being my mentor, and, you're a true blessing to everyone that knows you. And, let's just keep rocking and rolling like we usually do, I guess. And
thank you.
Any remarks before we sign off for our Saturday night special?
Well, I will just say, Hammer, you are a person that gives to so many people, and it's what draws people to you. And I appreciate you. And we're always trying to find ways to donate people and raise money, to donate to people and raise money and help folks. And I think that's special, man. And I think that you're one of the people on this planet that makes our planet a better place. And I love you and I respect you. And as much as I'm your mentor, you're my mentor, and you've helped me out so much. I just want everyone tonight to just give people the benefit of the doubt, kind of learn. Don't just dispose of someone's feelings. Just understand what people are going through. Look, you're not going to like everything that's going on right now, but just understand when people are hurt and people are wounded, they sometimes do things out of frustration. And if we're more empathetic towards that, I think that's just the best way we can be. We're going to get through this. We're going to move through this. I think from a leadership's perspective, any of those who are leaders and politicians out there need to really understand and be empathetic and try to invoke change so we all can move forward in the right way. So, love you guys. Saturday Night Scoop is always amazing. We're a little more serious tonight. In fact, we are serious tonight compared to most other nights.
100%.
Depending on how things go next Saturday night, we might be serious or we might be crazy. But I appreciate everyone's support and love. And thank you to everyone I went to school with and grew up with and had a professional relationship with and sold records with and worked with and raised money for awareness with. I just appreciate everybody. And Costen and Hammer are here as long as you guys allow us to be. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Thank you. And that's it for
Deuces.
Saturday
Night Scoop.